To start a meal without soup, unglaublich, unbelievable. That could only happen in America. The Viennese don't play about their soup, and neither their beer, as Austrians start sampling at age 16. Tonight, for dinner, we're having beer and cigarettes, and no, I'm not talking Friday night plans, but actual recipes from Old Vienna cookbook, beer soup, and Viennese cigarettes. We'll start with 3 cups beer into a pot. They don't specify the type, but being an Austrian recipe, I figure a light lager would do. I saw the word Steigl Hell written across a 4-pack in my local spot and thought, it doesn't get more German than that. The word Hell or Helles in German refers to the light or pale color of the beer, not the place you think you've woken up in after drinking one too many. What makes this soup a meal and not a frat boy's breakfast is apparently milk, eggs, and sugar. Prep the first 2 by separating the egg yolks from their whites. Mom tells me Gordon Ramsay separates eggs by cracking them into his hand and letting the whites run through his fingers. I'd like to go on record and say that my method is objectively better than his, making me the better chef. Beat the eggs into the milk until smooth and set it aside in the fridge until you're ready to heat the soup. We'll come back to the beer once the cigarettes are finished. As some of you know, you can't have one without the other. Grab a block of Swiss, or in our case, a bunch of slices held together really tight, and grate until you've got about a cup. Mix together 1.5 cups flour with Swiss, salt and paprika using a bowl and spoon, or a fancy stand mixer that your kids got you for Mother's Day. Work in about 3 tablespoons of cream until you get a relatively smooth dough. It came out pretty dry, so we added more cream until it felt like a soft, stretchable Play-Doh that's actually edible. If you're a kindergartner, you heard that right, you can't eat Play-Doh. I just learned that kindergarten is a German word. It translates to children garden. I thought that was neat. Anyway, cover the dough and chill in the fridge for 30 minutes. Speaking of chill, let's take a moment to talk about, not our sponsor since we don't have one, but the book this recipe came from. Born in New York in 1908 of Austro-Hungarian parents, author Lillian Langseth Christensen recalls fondly of her childhood visits to Vienna. At just 14 years old, she and her mother forged her documents to appear 4 years older so that she could enroll in what is now Vienna's University of Applied Arts. She studied under architect Joseph Hoffman, that guy who designed this cube chair that sells for $3,000. Her study was cut short junior year when her brother died suddenly from typhus. Lillian worked in New York as an interior designer before writing columns for Gourmet magazine, a now dissolved brand of Condé Nast, which also owned Vogue, GQ, and Vanity Fair. In Gourmet's Old Vienna cookbook, Lillian acknowledges several companies for providing accessories using the pictures of finished recipes. Most of these make sense. Belgian Linen Association probably provided tablecloths. Baccarat is known for their crystal glassware, so the fancy cups, I'm guessing, are from them. But then I noticed Abercrombie & Fitch is listed. If you're like me, you're probably thinking, how is preppy clothing for 15-year-olds related to Austrian fine dining? Well, apparently it's not. See, Abercrombie & Fitch started in 1892 as an outfitter selling sporting and excursion goods, like shotguns, fishing gear, boats, and tents. The company outfitted Teddy Roosevelt's safari to Africa, where he collected specimens for the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in D.C. and the American Museum of Natural History in New York, or what I refer to as those places Ben Stiller worked in Night at the Museum. Don't switch videos just yet, here's where it gets interesting. As it turns out, Teddy wasn't the only notable fan of Abercrombie & Fitch. Ernest Hemingway spent his childhood summers camping and hunting in the woods of northern Michigan, which sparked his passion for outdoor adventure and later African safaris. Just months before receiving the Nobel Prize in Literature, Hemingway and his then-wife Mary survived 2 back-to-back plane crashes in Africa. He finally arrived in Entebbe, Uganda to find reporters covering the story of his own death and spent the next few weeks reading his own obituaries. In a 1954 letter to his lawyer, Hemingway discusses the crashes and his frustration with Abercrombie & Fitch. The company had apparently sent 2 rifles he did not order and a crate containing several hundred rounds of ammo to the wrong address in Africa. Coincidentally, the package was sent to the family of a young Joseph Kony, and some experts credit this mistake for the birth of the Lord's Resistance Army. I made that last part up. They really did send the guns to the wrong address though, and Hemingway expressed his frustrations. I did not have my Springfield 30-06 for more than a month, and had to shoot my first line with a borrowed .256 Mannlicher, which was so old it would come apart in my hands and had to be held together with tape and scotch tape. Their carelessness in shipping imperiled both my life and livelihood. I guess to be a great writer, you have to be somewhat of a drama queen. Now this is where things take a darker turn. In his later years, Hemingway suffered from depression and a slew of other health problems, likely from his crashes and years of drinking and prescription use. He was treated with electroconvulsive therapy, although he claimed it ruined his head and memory. On July 2nd, 1961, 2 days after being released from the hospital, Hemingway retrieved his favorite shotgun from the basement, went upstairs to the foyer, pushed in 2 shells, and shot himself. The favorite gun that Hemingway had used was purchased from Abercrombie & Fitch. I can't remember why I brought any of this up. Oh yeah, so Abercrombie & Fitch provided fishing gear as accessories for some of the pictures used in the book. Now when you see one of their shirts, you'll be reminded by the death of modernist literature, which is probably still a better sensation than smelling their cologne. Let's check on our dough. Yeah, that's cold enough. Grab a rolling pin, roll the dough out into a rectangle, sprinkle on a mix of half flour, half shredded Parmesan, then fold into thirds. Roll it out again, sprinkle, and fold once more. Repeat this one more time, roll, sprinkle, fold. Now put it back in the fridge for 15 minutes. Once it's cooled, take it out, and we want to roll this into a rectangle that's about 10 inches long and 1/8 of an inch thick. Grab a pizza cutter and cut strips about 3/4 inch wide. Butter a baking sheet, grab some wooden skewers and butter those too. If you have high cholesterol, maybe use olive oil instead, or take an extra statin or something. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Grab a strip of dough and wrap it tightly around the stick. It should end up looking like this, or maybe this. See why they're called Vienna cigarettes? Yeah, neither do we. I'm clearly going for the path of least resistance with that spiral. It's like I'm back in ceramics class. Mom's got the right idea though. Old man wanted to get in on this. Of course he absolutely crushes it. There seems to be a universal experience of dads being great at everything.
Scoot over, mister.
Here's a rare sight of a married couple getting along in the kitchen. Once you're finished, brush your spirals with egg yolk and sprinkle on some Parmesan before putting them in the oven at 325 for 20 minutes. While that's baking, grab the beer and simmer for 3 minutes. You want the soup done at the same time as the sig, so try to time that right. Now you might be thinking, why'd you pour the beer at the start of the video? Wouldn't it be flat by now? That's a great point and one we did not think of. It turns out though that carbon dioxide bubbles off at high temperatures anyways, so get off your high horse. Take it off the heat and pour in what seems like way too much sugar, slowly stir in the yolks and milk, and don't forget to spill half of it over your freshly cleaned stove. Whisk it all together until smooth and foamy and serve it at once. The cigarettes are about done. They should look like this and pull easily off the stick like that.
Which one? I'm gonna try Dad's.
Okay. Dry.
Dry, cheesy.
I could cheese it. No yeast like you were saying, so
Didn't rise.
no rise, yeah, no baking powder, none of that.
But with beer soup.
With beer soup. This is how the beer soup came out. It kind of looks like eggnog a little bit. That smells like warm beer.
Yeah, it's very limited ingredients. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I expect it to be like creme brulee.
No, it's very watery.
So it's no longer bubbly. It's okay. I think it's good.
Well, it's like sugar water with beer. Yeah, see, I had the idea of dipping the...
That's like, this is
He thought that
this
was
is
gross.
the 19th century Austrian version of fries in your milkshake.
No,
right here.
shame. Yeah, if you dip it,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
You can taste the beer, right?
You can, but can you get drunk off of it?
That's a good question. So this beer was 4.5%, which is pretty normal, pretty weak, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel anything yet?
No. Well, unless my wine's kicking in that I had earlier. I don't know.
That's cheating. This would be good with like Baileys or whiskey.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, yeah, you could make this and then add something else, like almost like an eggnog
Yeah.
type thing.
all right, well, this ain't going to get us.
The thing is when you cook with alcohol, it burns off.
A little bit,
But you
yeah.
weren't allowed to boil this.
Right, up to a simmer, it said.
You only could simmer it. So it makes me wonder how much of the alcohol is really gone. So it could still give you a buzz.
All right, one last taste.
Some beer with buzz.
Yeah, there's beer in that. Something-
Well, now you don't have to have a beer and soup. You just have
Right.
beer in
Who
your
has
soup.
time for making both of those
Right.
things? Should we try this recipe again, but with stronger beer?
Stronger beer. What a great idea.
This is the stronger beer. It looks a little darker. Mom was saying that
Look like it
Curdled?
Curdled.
coddle is what you did to the younger
Yeah.
brothers.
It curdled.
That's
a
why they're
little bit.
sissies. Anyways, maybe this beer is working.
Maybe we're drunk.
Maybe. All right.
right, well,
let's get sipping, I guess.
cheers.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Wow, I like that one better.
What notes are coming through?
It has a
Nuttier.
nuttier
Definitely.
taste. Yeah, it actually has more flavor than
More
the
body,
other. More
yeah.
body. Yeah.
Let's use big words. It's a little chunky. It's okay. This would be a mean hangover. I feel like it's so much sugar. Do you taste more alcohol in this one?
Yeah, but it's not even just the
I feel
alcohol.
like it's gonna sneak up on you. Is that the old one?
Yeah.
Let me take a quick sip of that one again. Wait, let's hold both up to the camera, just to see.
You can
the
see it. It's darker and
difference.
richer.
I mean, it tastes like Bud Light inside of
Yeah.
eggnog or something. I wish we knew more about beer. Like, it's more beery.
Yeah.
You guys, I don't really know how else to
More beery.
explain that one.
More beer flavor. The
spicy.
thing is, this dinner is beer and cigarettes.
Beer and cigarettes, right?
It's
These
easy.
are Viennese.
Whoops, and they break really easily.
Let's keep sipping. I want to see if it does something. I almost want to try this again with like half the sugar.
Yeah. I would put less sugar in it. More beer.
You know what would go great with this?
No.
An ice cold beer.
Which we did sip the original beer. This is what we do with mistakes.
Mom? We did. We did.
By the way, we couldn't even find any help on these two recipes.
Yeah, you won't find these recipes online. Only in this very secret book, which could be yours for a low price. So this is a YouTube first. Cigarettes and beer for dinner.
Cigarettes and beer for dinner. Cheers.
Cheers. Good night.
One more. Good night.
Take a real sip. Don't fake it. Ugh. It keeps getting stronger. There's definitely alcohol in it.
Oh yeah, it did not burn off. No.
All right. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.